Shalom, Chaverim, and welcome once again to a session of Heartfelt Haftarah. This week we're going to be looking at the Haftarah for the Torah portion known as Vayigash. That is the story of our ancestor Joseph continues. And with it, there are appropriate Haftarot that are selected. So let's start off, as I like to start off, with a little tent peg business. Okay, so prophecy. As I've probably alluded to you before, we've talked about how to break down the prophets in terms of their literary appearance in the Bible. The prophets who are parts of narratives versus the prophets who speak for themselves. Northern prophets, the southern prophets. So look at the northern prophets who really sort of set the standard, those prophets from the northern kingdom, seem to be just about anybody. They could be just about anybody who felt the powerful summons of Adonai upon them, who burdened them, and they often describe it as a burden, with a need to speak the message to the people. Prophecy is not like mysticism. In mysticism, you seek out the encounter with God, but evidently in prophecy, God comes to get you. It's a little bit like Cthulhu. It found me. And so God seeks out prophets who often don't seem to be particularly appreciative of the honor of being a prophet and compels them to speak. Now, when we talk about the prophets of the southern kingdom, that is the kingdom of Judea or Judah, the kingdom with Jerusalem as its capital and the ancient temple as its spiritual center place, you can notice a bit of a shift. And one of the most prominent shifts that happens is that most of the southern prophets are, in fact, also simultaneously priests who serve in the temple. And this is different from the northern prophets. So to a degree that wouldn't be completely evident with the northern prophets, these men are probably better educated. I'm sure almost all the priests also functioned as scribes, so they were literate themselves. But on top of that, being part of the priestly caste, they were more closely tied to the hierarchy of ancient Judah than many of the northern prophets were. However, that makes their dissent, they're willing to criticize the status quo, the king and the temple, that much more potent, because they're insiders. They know. You could think of them as whistleblowers. And so, if you think about the great southern prophets, the literary prophets that we have, those Judean prophets are Isaiah, a priest, Jeremiah, a priest, Ezekiel, a priest, Zechariah, a priest. So you can see a pattern here. It isn't absolutely consistent. We have a couple of southern prophets who aren't self-evidently part of the priesthood, but this is almost a unique feature of the southern tradition of prophecy during the Israelite period, is that the priesthood and prophetic voices become more integrated. So anyway, our prophet for this week, I guess I should set aside my stick now that I've explained that unique feature of Southern prophecy, is Ezekiel. Ezekiel ben Buzi. He states him right out front, he is a priest. I think I've probably already told you a little bit about him. He lived in the final days of the Judean kingdom before it's conquered by the Neo-Babylonians, and he goes into exile with what was probably the bulk of the elites from Judean society that were taken to Babylon. And there he finds himself, and it is there that he first experiences the spirit of prophecy. Now, the setting is so interesting because, in the previous 150 years, the Israelite kingdom to the north, Israel, had been destroyed by the Assyrians. And then the Neo-Babylonians, in turn, destroy the Assyrians and absorb their empire. And then they, in turn, conquered the southern kingdom of Judea. And so it's not impossible to imagine that Ezekiel even encountered in the cosmopolitan cooking pot of Babylon descendants from the northern kingdom, people who had been transferred or enslaved, and they said, "Oh, my grandfather was an Israelite," or "My great-grandfather was from the tribe of Gad." So Ezekiel would have encountered the last remnants of the northern kingdom tribes in his dealings living in this new exile. In any case, our Torah portion for this week is about Joseph and his encounter with his brothers, how they are reunited under rather tense circumstances in the land of Egypt. Joseph has risen to a high status, a kind of vizier within Pharaoh's household. He wields a tremendous amount of power. He's basically the economic czar of Egypt during a time of famine. And his brothers appear destitute, starving, seeking provisions to take back to their clan in the land of Canaan, which is undergoing a huge famine also. And so he has them at his mercy. But as we know, having been reading this story now for 3,000 years, that Joseph is going to forgive them and that they are going to be reunited. And that seems to be the occasion that the rabbis identify for selecting this particular Haftarah portion to go with the Torah portion, because just as Joseph and his brothers, all of them future progenitors of the tribes of Israel, are reunited, so too Ezekiel comes and makes a promise to the people in exile that all the tribes will be reunited also in the future. And he does so in a wonderfully vivid kind of way. Now, all of the prophets tend to have striking ways of communicating their ideas. But I always like to say that Ezekiel is the true performance artist of Israelite prophecy. He will always see something, do something, act out something in a way that will really communicate what he's trying to deliver in his message. So does it mean appearing naked? Yeah, he'll appear naked. Is he going to lie on his side for several days in a public place? Yes, he's going to do that. Is he going to describe a glorious divine chariot coming from the land of the ancient temple to settle upon the people in exile? Yes, he's going to describe that. In this particular case, he's going to use a couple of sticks. Yeah, something like this, probably not quite as finished, but he has a visual object lesson to teach the Israelites. And this is how it goes. Okay, so we're in chapter 37 of Ezekiel. First of all, he starts out with the incredibly vivid and wonderful description of the Valley of Dry Bones, which is not in our Torah portion this week, but I hope we'll get a chance to look at it because it does appear in another Torah portion, and we won't get into it. But then he goes on midway through 37, and he has another striking thing, and this I'm going to share with you here. Here we go. The word of the Eternal came to me, saying, "Mortal, take a stick and write upon it for Judah and Israelites associated with it. And then take another stick and write upon it Joseph and Ephraim's stick and all of Israel associated with it." Unfortunately, I don't have two sticks right now. "Bring them together, every one of them as one stick, that they may be as one in your hand. And when any of your people say to you, 'Will you not tell us what you mean by this strange behavior you're doing?' say to them, 'Thus says the eternal God, behold, I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel associated with them, and placing them on him along with the stick of Judah, making them one stick, so they will become a single stick in my hand." All right, so I think you get the visual effect of it, right? He's saying that even though the tribes have been broken up, even though they are scattered, even though more than a century of political chaos separates them all, that God will, in fact, bring them all back together. The scattered tribes will be brought back together and reunited as one. And probably the unstated part of all of this is, you know, the old drill that if you take a single pencil, do I have a single pencil? I'm not sure I have a single pencil. All right. So you're going to have to visualize. Oh, no, I don't want to break that. You take a single pencil, you can snap it, but if you get a bundle of pencils together, they're unbreakable. You can't break them, right? And that's sort of the same message here, that once I bring these two sticks together, they will be a mighty force, and they will now be able to endure all the blows of history, and that they will once again be restored. And let's see, how does it conclude? "I will make my covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant with them." That's Brit Shalom. We know the word Shalom. Brit means covenant. And Brit Olam, an eternal covenant or an everlasting covenant. "I will make them safe and increase their numbers and place my sanctuary in their midst forever." And interestingly, the word used here for sanctuary is Mishkani, Mikdashni, which means my mishkan, my tent, my portable sanctuary will be with you. So regardless of where you find yourself, my presence will be with you. "I will be their God, and they shall be my people." A famous phrase that gets repeated over and over again in the Bible. And so it is a message of hope for the future. And okay, so here's the messiness of history. The fact of the matter is that most of the northern tribes are still lost to us. Apparently, when the now Jewish people, used to be the Israelites, now the Jews, returned from Babylonian exile, there's three identifiable tribes that return. Judah, which makes up most Jews, Levi, which is the tribe or clan of the priesthood, and apparently Benjamin. The word Benjamin means southerner in Hebrew. So apparently they were part of the southern kingdom, and they went into exile and returned from exile. Now, as far as hold on a second, I've got to pause. Now, all evidence is that by the 1st century CE, by the beginning of the Common Era, most people had lost their unique Benjaminite identity, and they were absorbed into the larger collection of Stam, ordinary Jews. And so we no longer really have a viable tradition of people who are descended from the tribe of Benjamin. We still know who are Levites, at least to a degree, because of the preservation of that identity in the names of various Jews. Levi, Levi, Levinson, Levinsky, Cohen, Kahn, Katz, Kaplan. These all identify Jewish families who once regarded themselves as part of the tribe of Levi or part of the priesthood, which was also the tribe of Levi. So really, the identity of only 2 tribes survives to this day. But the promise is in Ezekiel that we'll all be connected. Now, that has not happened yet. Will it ever happen? I don't know. If I were a cynic, which I often am about history, that seems almost improbable to impossible. However, the truth of the matter is we do gather our scattered people again together. In the 20th century, Jews from all over the world have been gathered once again in our ancestral homeland, in Western Asia, in the land of Israel. We have been reunited. Are there northern tribe descendants among them? No doubt. We don't necessarily, we can't necessarily identify them. We can't say, oh, you're from the tribe of Naphtali and you're from the tribe of Issachar, et cetera, but we have been brought together. And that united stick of the Jewish people, of the many, many branches brought together, is very strong. We worry a lot about the survival of Israel, but it's a really tough little nation. And I think we should have confidence that God is with us and the divine presence still rests with us. The Mishkan is not gone, it's there. The presence of God is with Jews wherever they go, whether it comes in the form of a glowing chariot or a dusty desert tent. God's presence comes with us wherever we are in the world, and it follows us wherever we end up. And of course, we are in many ways united in a way we haven't been before. So to a degree, Ezekiel got it right, maybe not as completely bidiyuk exactly as the details of his prophecy would suggest, but it's a pretty good outcome all in all. So keep that in mind. I hope you take some inspiration from the fact that we are the people that seem to endure all kinds of things. And Ezekiel understood that. He saw that we could, in fact, survive exile and all the challenges of the world. And we've managed to do it up to this time. So rejoice in that. Have a great week. And I'll be providing a new teaching next week. Look forward to talking with you all.